For years, India's biggest energy vulnerability sat in one place, the Gulf. A single geopolitical shock in West Asia could send tremors through India's energy security. Oil tankers, LNG cargoes, shipping lanes, critical choke points, all concentrated in one volatile region. Now picture this. A decade ago, Qatar accounted for nearly 86% of India's LNG imports. Today, that figure has fallen to around 40%. For most countries, that would be a crisis. But for India, it is now an opportunity to diversify. It is a test of a strategy that has been quietly years in the making. And the latest move, the Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone has secured a long-term marine services contract for Argentina's first ever liquefied natural gas export project. On paper, it looks like a business deal. In reality, it is part of a much larger strategic shift, a shift that is helping India reduce dependence on traditional LNG suppliers such as Qatar and the UAE. Let's break down how India stands tall during this energy crisis. The Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone has secured a 10-year marine services contract for Argentina's first ever LNG export project. The deal not only supports Argentina's ambitions to become a major LNG exporter, but also marks Adani's entry into South America. So here's how the deal came together. Adani Harbour International teamed up with Argentina-based Meridian Group to form a consortium that competed for the contract. After an international bidding process run by Southern Energy, the developer behind Argentina's landmark LNG export venture, the consortium emerged as the winning bidder. So where exactly is this project located? It is being developed in San Matias Gulf in Argentina's Rio Negro province. The plan is to take natural gas transported through General San Martin pipeline and liquefy it aboard floating LNG vessel Hilli Episeyo. This will allow the gas to be processed and prepared for export directly from the coast, paving the way for Argentina's entry in the global LNG market. India's demand for natural gas continues to grow, whether it is for power generation, city gas networks, or industrial use. Finding new and reliable LNG suppliers is becoming increasingly important, and that's where Argentina comes in. The South American nation is expected to emerge as the new source of energy and LNG supplies for India, helping diversify countries' energy imports and strengthen energy security. In fact, agreements are already in place to export up to 10 million tons of LNG to India every year starting in 2027, effectively creating a new energy corridor between the two countries. The project at the heart of this plan is Southern Energy's LNG venture, which is scheduled to begin commercial operations in September 2027. In its first phase alone, the facility is expected to produce 2.45 million tons of LNG annually, enough to fill around 28 LNG cargoes a year, making it Argentina's first operational LNG export project. Bilateral trade between India and Argentina has now reached around $6 billion, making India one of Argentina's top 6 trading partners. So in other words, the relationship is already significant, and projects like LNG Venture could help take economic cooperation to an even higher level in the years ahead. The war in West Asia and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz disrupted one of the world's critical energy routes, forcing India to rethink its LNG strategy. Until then, A large share of India's LNG imports came from Gulf suppliers such as Qatar and the UAE. So consider what happened on March 19th. An Iranian ballistic missile struck Qatar's Ras Laffan energy complex, the world's largest LNG export hub and a facility responsible for roughly 1/5 of global LNG supplies. The attack immediately raised fears of a major disruption to global energy markets. So for India, the concern was even greater. Around 40% of India's LNG imports came from Qatar, making it the country's most important energy suppliers. So when a key Qatari energy facility came under attack, it wasn't just a regional security issue. It became a direct concern for India's energy security as well. To put things into perspective, between 2010 and 2014, when India was significantly increasing its LNG imports, as much as 80 to 90% of those came from a single country, Qatar. However, from 2014 onwards, New Delhi took a firm stance to reduce its reliance on Doha. The very next year, Qatar's LNG share reduced to 62%, and by 2017, LNG exports from Qatar dropped to 51%. During this time period, India had diversified its LNG sourcing primarily to 4 countries in order of volume: Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड ओमान।
भारत ने बीते 11 वर्षों में अपनी एनर्जी इंपोर्ट का डाइवर्सिफिकेशन किया है। पहले क्रूड ऑयल, एलएनजी, एलपीजी ऐसी एनर्जी जरूरतों के लिए 27 देशों से इंपोर्ट किया जाता था। वहीं आज भारत 41 देशों से एनर्जी इंपोर्ट करता है।
Fast forward to 2026 and the picture looks very different for India. Qatari LNG is no longer readily available and the challenges go beyond temporary supply disruptions. With 2 of the 14 LNG production trains at Ras Laffan suffering from extensive damage, 1/6 of Qatar's export capacity is now offline. If repairs take as long as estimates suggest, the lost capacity could remain unavailable for years rather than months. Especially after the Hormuz disruption, Oman, Nigeria and the US have emerged as key LNG suppliers in both March and April. They accounted for nearly 69% of total LNG imports in India. United States emerged as India's largest supplier of liquefied petroleum gas and liquefied natural gas in the month of May. India's LPG imports from US stood at 629,000 tons, up 63% from April. For India, this underscores why diversifying LNG imports has become so critical. What was once a heavy dependence on a single supplier is now giving way to a broader strategy that sources gas from multiple countries, reducing the risk of any one disruption having a major impact on the country's energy security.